welcome to Waterstones. Do you like what we've been done to the place? We wanted to make you all feel a little bit at home amid the lockdown. I hope you're all keeping well. I hope all your families are keeping well. And welcome to what is, for me at least, my very first virtual book launch, the Executive Guide to Blockchain. And this is the formal launch, which we were due to have at this exact time in a physical venue in central London. But we're going to bring a lot more of you in virtual terms to the Executive Guide to Blockchain book launch. My name is Joe Lynham. I am a presenter on BBC Radio. I used to be the business correspondent and economics correspondent for the BBC for many years. And I remember doing a piece for the very first time on something called blockchain back in 2013 for Newsnight. And I remember telling the BBC Two audience back then about this brand new technology that I had only heard of that morning, and how it was going to potentially change the world, and how the price of it had rocketed to a record-breaking $50. So fast forward 7 years, fair bit has changed, including the price of Bitcoin and the importance of knowing what blockchain is. And that's what the Executive Guide to Blockchain is all about, to help people who are in business, who are thinking about using this technology and don't know whether they should use it and in what circumstances they should use it. That's where the book comes in. What this book hopefully will help with is 4 things. Identify opportunities for blockchain in your own business sectors. Understand smart contracts and their relationship with the law. Create a blockchain strategy and business case. Implement blockchain technologies and maximize their potential. We will get to that in due course. In a moment, I will introduce the 2 authors, Maria Vigliotti and Hayden Jones. Stand by for those 2 guys. In the meantime, please think of your questions, because we're going to put them to the authors in the course of the next 28 minutes or so. Look at the Q&A thing at the bottom of your Zoom. Follow my finger down to the bottom, the Q&A. And post your questions there, and I will try to put them to the authors. If they're not defamatory or a bit unsuitable, I will put them to the authors. In the meantime, say a big wave to Maria Vigliotti and Hayden Jones. Please give us a wave, authors. Say a word, otherwise Zoom may not activate.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Joe. Good to see you.
There's Hayden Jones. As you can
Hi,
see,
Joe. Nice to be here.
And this is Maria Vigliotti. I'm going to go to Maria first. Maria, who are you briefly, and why did you write this book?
So thank you, Joe. I have worked all my life in computing, and for many years as an academic at Imperial College London, and then I worked in the private sector. I really love to work with blockchain technology, and in the last 3 years I have been running my own company, Sunblock Consulting, where we concentrate on both blockchain and cybersecurity. In the blockchain space, I contribute to the standardization of blockchain, as I am a member of the working group at the British Standards Institutions. And I also lead a company called GradBase, where we put academic and professional qualification on the Bitcoin blockchain. Why have I written the book? Well, let me tell you that I was very frustrated with the hype around blockchain and the unnecessary technical language. In my career, I have always endeavored to communicate complex technical solutions in a plain language, and the book is really written with that philosophy in mind. So when we were writing the book, we imagined our reader to be an intelligent, no-nonsense business person with very little time, who needs to understand the blockchain to take business decision and needs a coincide guide. So we have delivered a coincide guide for business people.
Thank you, Maria. Without further ado, let's go to Hayden Jones, who, judging from that microphone, is working on a very tricky 3rd album. So I hope the album goes well. But before that's launched, tell us who you are and why you wrote this book.
Thank you, Joe, and thanks to everybody for joining this evening. It's a real privilege to be hosting this. So I'm an engineer and a lawyer. I spent 7 years in investment banks looking at payment systems, settlement, equity settlement. I spent 5 years at A.T. Kearney Consulting Company looking at logistics, supply chain, operations management there. And then high point in my career has been working at the Bank of England. So I spent 5 years working at the Bank of England, focused on regulatory reform, so helped set up the PRA, but also involved in a whole range of different crisis responses. And then 4 years at Fujitsu as a managing director there, managing large, complex, commercially difficult outsourcing arrangements. And I started hearing about Bitcoin about 6 years ago. I thought it was very interesting. I didn't really understand it at all. For me, as I started to read into it, I started to see that actually it could help answer one of these kind of persisting issues that we used to have in investment banks, was that, you know, you'd send $150 million in that direction and you wouldn't get anything back. And that wasn't because there was anything fraudulent going on. It was simply because there was some kind of underlying operational issue. There was some kind of static data issue. And as I started to read into blockchain, I thought, well, actually, there's something in here that allows us to synchronize payment with the delivery of goods and services or securities. And I thought, well, this is quite interesting because it, you know, as a risk management vehicle, it allows us to synchronize that exchange of value with the delivery of goods and services. So 3 years ago, I left normal employment, and like Maria, felt that there was a real gap in the market to actually help people understand how this technology works. So set up my own company to deliver educational courses pretty much anywhere in the world. So I ended up training about 1,500 people. And then along the way, met Maria. And I think we both agreed that there was a need for a book that you know, in many ways told the story of how blockchain can be applied in businesses. You know, we're grateful, hugely grateful. It's Palgrave Macmillan that picked us up. And you know, they sponsored us throughout this, which has been absolutely fantastic. And then along the way, picked up different consulting engagements, which kind of takes me to where I am now, which is a director at PwC focused on some, you know, really interesting blockchain engagements.
Thank you, Hayden, and we will be coming to questions for the authors in due course. Let's dispel some of the myths about blockchain, which you deal with, of course, very well in the book. Even I have read the book and understand it. Let's, first of all, despite what Donald Trump says, the blockchain will not be the cure for COVID-19. Can you give us 5 reasons where blockchain is not suitable? Hayden.
So this is based on my experience of what I've seen over the last 6 years, right? So I think number 5 has got to be what can best be described as a vanity project. So as a CEO kind of came in and said, well, everybody's doing something in blockchain. We've got to do something in blockchain. We need a blockchain project, okay? And, you know, for the sake of the example, we take, it was like inventory management. So they put a team of people together and focused on inventory management. And the thing was, it was within their own organization. It was within a particular functional area. And it was like, the results pretty much were, you know, pretty uninspiring, okay? You know, a year's worth of work deploying blockchain in an area such as inventory management within a functional area of the organization, and it just didn't deliver any value. And everybody came away from that feeling pretty disillusioned after a year's worth of work and said, well, what is this blockchain thing? Why do we need it? So number 5 is what I'd describe as that vanity project. Number 4 is the trading platform, okay? So as Maria will testify, whenever you do a blockchain course, there's always 1 or 2 people at the back of the class who are going to give you a hard time. And they're always going to say, this is hype, this is kind of a load of rubbish, it's a scam, it's used for money laundering. So there's always a couple of people in there and they've always got an angle on you. And there was one guy and he kept saying, well, you know, we did blockchain and we built a trading platform with it. And it was like, well, why did you do that? And it's like, well, it was slow and it was expensive and we just didn't see any value that it delivered versus, you know, relative to a traditional platform. It's like, well, if you'd have told me that you created digital assets and put them on a shared ledger and that you had a load of counterparties who are writing to that shared ledger and they're swapping digital assets, that would have been interesting. But telling me you put a trading platform into blockchain in the simplest sense just doesn't really do it for me. So number 4 is the trading platform. Number 3, invoice factoring. And there are blockchain-based invoice factoring solutions out there. Invoice factoring is where I'm a supplier. I've got a load of invoices that have not been paid. And what I do is I sell those invoices and I get the money in a discount. But why do that? Why not go the whole hog and say, well, actually, again, what we're going to do is we're going to synchronize. When I deliver my goods, I'm going to get paid immediately for them, which is what you can do with blockchain. So it actually moves the need for anything like invoice factoring away. So again, it's these little bits of process that people have gone after that haven't delivered any value, which takes me to number 2, which is an accounting process. Again, it was a large global consumer goods company, and again, they'd spent good years worth of work, so a reasonable amount of money to put blockchain into a part of their accounting process, and it didn't deliver any value. And again, we had a whole team of people who just sat there saying, well, just don't get this blockchain thing, pretty disillusioned. And then number 1, I'm going to be controversial. I'm going to go for money laundering. If I was going to launder money, I certainly wouldn't use Bitcoin. Okay, I mean, maybe some more exotic cryptocurrencies out there, but the clever thing about Bitcoin is the fact that if I sent you a Bitcoin, Joe, okay, and you shredded it into 1,000 little pieces and you sent it all the way on to your friends, we've got the analytical tools to be able to reassemble all of those different transactions and actually trace it back to, even actually back beyond me, so we can actually go back to the point where the original Bitcoin was mined. And in a perfect world where we've got an AML KYC perimeter sitting around that, we can actually see the identity of where those transactions have actually originated from. So vanity project, trading platform, invoice factoring, bits of process in accounting and finance, and at number 1 I go for money laundering.
Well, I'm going to tell some of my friends in Colombia about that. They'd be very interested in that, in what not to do. Maria, do you want to add anything there before we come to the questions? We already have about 6 or 7 decent questions that I can put to you, but do you want to add anything to what Hayden was saying about things that are not, where blockchain is not suitable?
Yes. I would like to say, first of all, about the money laundering. Perhaps people would like to use something like Monero or Zcash. Those are privacy preserving coins. And
are you encouraging money laundering?
No, I'm just saying
to clarify
that if you are concerned about your privacy, independently from the money laundering, there are solutions out there, and they already exist. I would like to compliment Hayden Hanses with providing a methodology how to eliminate bad use cases for blockchain. We have devised a test which requires any person, business people, project manager, to answer a set of questions, but I'm not going to list the question. I'm just going to say what key characteristic those questions assess. So the first characteristic that gets assessed is there a need to share data consistently with other members or other businesses? If the answer is no, it is unlikely, not impossible, but it's unlikely that you need to deploy a blockchain. If it's yes, you may want to understand whether you have the second characteristic, which requires for you the need to have a common storage. In other words, sharing data via email is not good enough for you. If that is the case, you need such a storage system. Then you want to investigate whether in sharing data with a group of business people that you need to work with, it is important that nobody can either delete or modify the history. And we all delete data on the emails, for example, or data we don't need. But in some cases, the history of the data and the integrity of the data is very important. What do I mean by that? If a surgeon operates today, it is pretty important that that person has a certification, at least from yesterday, and nobody should be able to change such a certification to prove compliance. Again, if you need this, then there is a fourth and very important characteristic, which asks whether in a group of people or in a group of business that need to share data, there is a challenge in determining who owns the data. In other words, is there any fear that some member of the group or the consortium could change the data in a way that is detrimental to the rest of the group? An example of that would be in the supply chain. Imagine somebody keeps a contract that involves multiple parties. They cannot deliver and they change the term of the contract to their advantage and in a detrimental way to the rest of the group. So to make it short, blockchain supports governance in a group of people, and the test assesses whether you have those key characteristics to think further whether you need a blockchain. It is not a definitive test. You still need to do a little bit more work to determine whether a blockchain solution delivers value. However, it gives you a broad recommendation whether you do not need a blockchain solution.
Maria, thank you very much for that. We have quite a few questions coming in through. I'm going to put, I'm only going to put one of them to you, but I'll read the question while you are kind of fizzing there in blue, which is very interesting. Just to remind those people who have joined late, this will be recorded and posted on the website, which is The Executive Guide to Blockchain.com. Easy to remember, The Executive Guide to Blockchain.com. This will be recorded. So when you watch that on the website, it's a little bit like watching a comedy show on Dave 2 years after it went out originally on BBC Two. I'm going to read out one or two anonymous questions, and then I'll put one who's actually put his name to it. Anonymous attendee. Are coding languages such as Python recommended to learn alongside blockchain? Don't answer that, please. Is knowledge of it vital to anybody interested in going into banking? Another question. How important is blockchain to the future of investment banking? There's a banking theme.
Oh, these are great questions.
Yeah, I'm going to come to a question from a guy called Steve Webb. I presume it's not the former pensions minister, the Liberal Democrat MP, but I'm assuming it's not him. And I'm going to put this to our Bank of England alumnus, Hayden Jones. The Bank of England have recently released a consulting paper called CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency. What are your views on potential benefits and pitfalls of CBDC? I won't read the sub-question because we don't have time. Hayden, do you want to have a crack at that?
Yeah, so thank you, Steve. And as Steve said, I think it was Mark Carney's sort of closing shot in terms of consultation, a discussion document that they published on the 10th of March, which was on, as Steve says, central bank digital currency. So the interesting thing about that is that it's a retail currency. It's a retail central bank digital currency. So the thing about central banks is that they have what is a very special type of money, which is central bank money. And the way to think about that is that if you take a £5 note, that £5 note is actually backed by an instrument that is held by the Bank of England. So it says, I promise to pay the bearer the sum of £5 on demand. If you go to the bank, given enough time, the bank will be able to find the bit of the gilt, so the UK issued bond, that actually sits behind that £5 note. So I think the way to think about it is that any other bank, the big settlement banks, the big commercial banks that move money through the Bank of England, through their settlement platform, that is also backed by an instrument, okay? Now that's very different from sort of wholesale money that's kind of just flowing around in the economy, so between the Barclays and the other settlement banks, because at one level it's just recorded on a ledger, but it comes to a point where the reserves are deposited in the bank. So in the case of the central bank digital currency, what they're looking to do is to create a central bank issued currency that we as consumers can hold electronically. So it's very much the same as paper, but it's an electronically held digital store of value, but it's backed by an instrument that's held within the Bank of England. Now, there's some very interesting points that made the webinar that they issued, I think about two or 3 weeks ago now. I think the bank is very clear that they do see, and it's, they do very much see a future for physical cash. Physical cash, as far as the bank is concerned, is something that they will need to support until there is any other sort of change in view on that. But what I think they also see is the opportunity to just add additional features to electronic money, so electronic digital money. So I talked earlier about this idea of synchronizing the movement of value against the delivery of goods and services. So that means we can pay people instantaneously when they've actually delivered goods or services to us. So electronic money that's held by the consumer in a wallet, we can attach things to it, like contracts that allow us to, when we actually receive goods, we can simultaneously send money to individuals or other suppliers. So I think there's lots of opportunity there. And so the bank is, they've put that paper out for consultation. They're looking for responses by the 12th of June. And what I will say, and this is a broader point, anything that the bank issues is always well written. and they've written some exceptionally good papers on blockchain. The central bank digital currency papers is really excellent, and all of the sort of papers on blockchain and Bitcoin are always worth checking out. So as a broader reference point, the Bank of England website is a very good place to go to for different sources and materials.
Says someone who used to work for the Bank of England, bigging up his mates back in the bank. I'm going to read another question to you, but I'm not going to put that one to you. I'm going to put a different one to Maria, if you're standing by, Maria. Peter Cook, I didn't know he was still alive. Hello, all. The person that can explain blockchain, its features and benefits in a short time, very short time, will be a millionaire. Any views on that? Now, I think he should read the Executive Guide to Blockchain. To find out if an idiot like me can understand it. I think a lot of other people are going to understand this as well. Question from David Kolb that I'm going to put to Maria. Maria, stand by. What are the most exciting uses or use cases coming out of blockchain today?
That's an excellent question. So there are
David.
there are quite a few. So one very interesting and important use case that I'm leading at the moment is with certification verification. So one of the barriers for people to emigrate is actually to prove that they have certain certificates. And what we are building with GradBase is the opportunity for people to prove that their qualifications are authentic. And we are expanding to become a global registry to enable social mobility. So this is a place where you can really do great work, not only deploying technology, but also improving the state of the world. Other really good use cases are associated with provenance and verification of titles. One where I worked with a previous company in the past is about land registry, and we worked in Ghana in West Africa. And the reason why that is a great example is because we don't appreciate, it's very difficult to imagine a world where there isn't a reliable land registry. In Ghana, most of the land is owned by chief of a tribe, and the same plot can be sold multiple times. And the title is reproduced every time it is sold. And even where there is a government land registry, sometimes corruption creeps in, and again, there are multiple titles for the same land. That prevents people from getting credit for their land asset. And in fact, the economist Eduardo de Soto claims that there are currently in the developing world, in total, $9 trillion of hidden value that cannot be unlocked because people cannot go to the bank and say, this piece of land belongs to me, please give me a secure loan. So what we did, because the blockchain cannot in any way determine whether a title is disputed or who really owns historically the title, we started to work with big property developers who have a clean and undisputed title. They build big new houses because there is a new middle class growing in Ghana and Nigeria, and then the title gets sublet. Those undisputed new titles gets put on the blockchain, and we work with banks to create a consortium so that once the title, the clean title is there, there is a governance from the blockchain that supports that people will not change the title to their advantage, nor they can create a fraudulent title. And that is in the interest of the bank because they can increase their mortgage market. So those are really two great examples that not only the technology is really suitable for, but also improve the state of the world. So they really do good to the global economy. So those are really my two favorites.
Thank you very much, Maria. I'm going to come back to questions from viewers, and are from viewers. So used to television, from this webcasters. What do people watch? Webcasters, watchers. In due course, we had three very good questions. I'm going to put to. I want to put something to Hayden, and maybe you consider this. And it's totemic given the times. Is there anything that blockchain could do in the context of COVID-19?
So I think, I mean, the first thing to say is obviously our thoughts go out to everybody that's been affected by that, because it's a truly horrific thing that's happened over the last 3 months. So that's our thoughts go to all the people who have been affected. I think, and I think the second thing to say, I'm not an epidemiologist. Okay, it was not a word.
That's easy for you to say.
I've not said that for epidemiologists. So I can't pretend to be qualified in pandemics or anything like that. But I think if there were 3 things that strike me as being important at the moment, I think the first is, and this is echoed obviously in what the government is saying around the world on a day-to-day basis, is, have you got it? Have you had it? Okay. And that is, and we can get into debate around antibodies and what the World Health Organization have said, but actually at a very basic level, do you need blockchain to have those kind of certificates on your body? Well, actually, we can do that with paper. We can do it with paper that have got special encrypted codes on. So we don't need blockchain for that sort of, that capturing the results of tests. Second part is, developing a vaccine, right? Now, I think there might be something interesting in there because actually all these big pharmaceutical companies got lots and lots of data. If they actually bring it together and they mine it, there might be something in there in terms of previous research programs that they've undertaken. So there might be something around sharing data, but that's more of a data mining and actually a sort of an encryption type problem. So I'm not necessarily convinced about the second part. I think the third is quite interesting because once we've done 1 and 2, we then need to restart the economy. And actually that's about engaging local communities. And I kind of see something around, creating these sort of tokens, if you like. So local restaurants can send tokens out to their customers, and they're going to be short of cash themselves. So you can redeem the tokens locally at the restaurants and local shops, retailers, and what have you. So I think there's something in there to help restart the economy. I think the interesting thing for me was that, the next 2 years, what we're being forced to do is basically innovate in a way that would have probably taken 10 years. This is really forcing through a whole new range of ideas that we're going to be, faced with the need to adopt very, very quickly. So that's my kind of, those are my sort of 3 headlines on that.
Brilliant. I'm conscious of everyone's time. I'm going to read out some more of the questions that we've got from viewers. Simon Entiknap said, given the cross-country nature of blockchain contracts, how do you feel regulators will be able to exercise control? Don't answer that yet. One from Katrina Sheridan. Nice to have a female question, also an Irish sounding name. What is your view of the use of blockchain in international aid and by the international financial institutes to provide traceability on the use of money? And Katrina Sheridan is the founder of Nafasi. Now, here's the question that I'm interested in, and I'm going to put this to Maria very briefly because we are coming to the end. In relation to Brexit and within its use in supply chain management, is blockchain a possible solution to transactions across the Irish border? One close to my own heart there.
Very interesting.
Maria,
yes.
you've got a minute and a half.
I have to say, this question has been posed to me a lot in the last year when I go to conferences or when I meet a lot of business people who work with government. The answer is yes. Very quickly, the answer is yes. Blockchain can support supply chain in Brexit. However, there is no way that the blockchain can sort out the political issues. So government needs to find a clear agreement how the goods and services move and have very clear rule. And what the blockchain can do can support the government to implement those rules and to ensure that those rules are transparent and clear and follow when things moved, when goods and services move on the Irish border. But it's not a magical solution because very often people come to me and hope the blockchain actually solves some of the political solution. In similar way as in the land registry or in the certification of academic certificates, you need to have clarity about what is it that you want to put on the ledger.
Good. That is very brief, and I'm going to start winding things up. Question from Gillian Godsall saying, good to see 50-50 gender balance in terms of authors of this particular book, which I think is good. Sorry that I'm a man, Julian, hosting this event. Apologies to everyone involved. Thank you so much to all of you for tuning in. thank you so much for posting your questions. I can't have asked them all. I can assure you of the 3 handheld devices I have, they are packed full of questions. I can't get to them all, unfortunately.
Well, we can do
Your
it again,
opinions-
Joe. We'll do it again. We'll do
We'll
another
do it
one.
again, and we're going to do a real one, I think, at some stage when we're all allowed socially interact. This will be recorded, so you can watch it again. But the key thing that I'm sure Hayden and Maria will want me to say is get online and buy the book, The Executive Guide to Blockchain.com. And from there's a link to where you can buy the book. I'm sure this will be posted again on the LinkedIn page for both Hayden and Maria. I might even retweet it myself or repost it myself. So I would like to say thank you from me, from the authors, Maria Vigliotti and Hayden Jones. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the day, the evening, but most of all, stay well. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank
Take
you
care.
so much, Joe. And if anybody wants to more question, write on LinkedIn and we'll answer it.
That
Thank
sounds
you.
Take care.
fair.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.